Okay, good. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this special council meeting of Wednesday, March 18th to order. First off, are there any disclosures of interest? Seeing none, just a couple of announcements. First, I'll read this and then. In these unprecedented times, to protect the health and safety of all, as a precautionary measure, we have changed the seating arrangement for this meeting to ensure that we practice social distancing. Councillors are asked to come to the delegation podium to make their discussion and debate. Please do not touch the microphones as they will be controlled through our main monitor. Also, I ask that councillors stand by the marking on the floor when speaking for safe practice. Thank you for your understanding. And just a further thank you to all our staff that have continued to operate the municipality. Without them, we would certainly not be running right now. They've done a great job. We've been meeting daily and keeping abreast of the situation that's been changing basically hourly. And we're just very happy that we have such a dedicated staff that is willing to keep the municipality running, and for that I commend them. Our first resolution for tonight, moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that during the circumstances of the COVID-19 outbreak, that the Council of the Town of Grimsby supports the Premier's recommendation to suspend time of use electricity billing, and that the Council of the Town of Grimsby requests that the Ontario Energy Board suspend time of use electricity billing to support lower electricity bills for residents who may be isolating at home during this day, and to support businesses who continue to operate via lower power rates during the daytime peak period, and that the time of use billing suspension take effect immediately until such time that the COVID-19 outbreak has been contained, and that this resolution be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, MPP Sam Oosterhoff, the Ontario Energy Board, Ontario Municipalities, and Grimsby Energy Incorporated. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Up next, Fire Chief Thompson and CAO Schlang, update on the COVID pandemic.
I just wanted to provide an update that, first of all, I think we have probably one of the greatest leadership teams I've ever worked with. We started last Thursday meeting as an EOC group, which we can do under our emergency plan. And since that day, we've been slowly meeting every day. And come Monday, we activated the EOC at Fire Station 2. And I must admit, the leadership team has stepped up to the plate. And our number one priority was sure that the essential services were continued and that at the protection of our town staff. And I believe we've taken every step at this point in time. So I'm open to any questions at this time. Yes, sorry, Seal.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that we've been working really closely with our staff. As you know, we're still providing services even though our facilities are closed. We have, numbers, outside plates, both at the Ops Center, fire stations, and here. So people are calling us and we're still servicing them. A lot of people are calling in by phone and electronic, so I feel we're meeting most of the needs of the municipality. We're keeping all the services going, but we are asking that, sometimes through appointment, and we got a protocol, a quick questionnaire that we ask if we have to go into a home or have to inspect some water meters or things like that, and that's been going extremely well. The residents and businesses have been working with us. Same as on issuing permits and site inspections, so that's going well. So at this point, there is some anxiety among staff, but we have to treat each person the way they'd like to be treated. We're doing a lot of leadership by walking around, all our supervisors, and trying to make everyone feel comfortable and help them in any way they can throughout the day. But we are continuing a full workload and moving forward in that way. As you know, it could change over time, and you'll be the first to be notified. The other thing is that I had some concerns from the community and both the DIA and the Chamber and some council members on our businesses, small businesses. I sent an email out today about the 82 billion and what that provides, basically some wage subsidies and also some deferment of their tax payments to the end of August. They're also providing liaison officers to the small businesses. I've also talked to the DIA and the Chamber today of how we get that messages out. So some of these small businesses don't have time to know what some of those rules are and how we can help them. So we are doing everything we can there. Neighboring municipalities are working together. There's a meeting tomorrow with an ECDEV response team, we're calling it, across all municipalities that have EDOs. I'm going to try and attend the meeting tomorrow, what we can do to help. But the mayor of Lincoln reached out to Mayor Jordan and said, you know, we've got an EDO, we're willing to help you, because it's trying to connect with those 2,500 businesses, and that wouldn't be a simple feat by myself on my own. So working with the EDO of Lincoln, and also I'm going to try and get some support for the region to make sure those businesses, you know, give us some feedback of what those true impacts are so we can quantify that data and help shape some programs as we move forward to help our businesses. So there's a lot of things in the works that way. So we're open to any questions.
Questions? Councillor Frick?
I guess we'll go back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the update, Bill and Harry. Going back to the small businesses, we've all, I think, received a letter today from the chair of the DIA related to the hard times that businesses are going through in town. They have been working hard, or the DIA team have been working hard to try and find some guidance for some of the small businesses to try and get through this. It's more of a what do we do kind of thing. And they come up with a kind of a training session that's actually I think it's contained in the letter as well. And it's going to cost about $600. And they're just wondering if the town or the council would approve some or all of that amount of money to help them. I don't have all the details, but I thought I'd bring that to the forefront and maybe open it for discussion. Maybe someone else knows more about it. But I think it's worthwhile, and it's a small contribution to help the DIA and the small businesses in town. So that's my few comments and my ask. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Frick. I think that is something that we certainly want to reach out to the small businesses in the small business community. And I think it is something that the town, not speaking for the rest of council, but that small cost we'd be prepared to support. Councillor Cadwell?
Comes out automatically, isn't that nice? Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan. Just for consideration, the March taxes were due last Friday. Would the town be looking at possibly? Oh, I gotta stay in there? Oh, do I? Okay.
Sorry.
Not used to this. Would the town be looking at maybe, is there any thought to possibly deferring taxes that are due in May? Again, I'm just throwing this out because people are going to be having some pretty dire times, especially those, from an employment standpoint. Is that something we may possibly look at? I know we have that line of credit, which I think we've only used once in my term on council, but yeah, just that's my question, Mayor, if that's any consideration.
Yeah, thank you. Our CAO can answer, or I can answer as well. I think over the next few weeks, as everything evolves and as things change, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time before the actual May due date to look at that, and it may be something that town and council may want to consider. It's something that we'd look at probably during hopefully one of our next scheduled council meetings in the future. And CIO, you'd like to comment?
Yeah, we'd have to do this, we can't do this unilaterally because we're collecting on behalf of the Board of Education in the region. So again, all the regional CAOs and all the municipal CAOs and the regional CAOs, we're meeting every 48 hours, sometimes every 24 hours. This rapid response team will be looking at this as well, but we can't do this unilaterally. It has to be a joint effort.
Thank you. Councillor Dunstall?
I watched the fire chief put his hands in his pockets, so I'll do that too, so I don't grab the mic. And I think I'm standing on the X, eh? Does that mean the floor folds open and down I go? No, I just, thank you, Your Worship, and through you and to council. It's pretty tough times for small business, and so I just, because I am a small business person too, and I have now a little spare time because my business is closed, I'd like to volunteer in any way I can to help anybody locally if there's any advice. I will be listening, for example, Friday to a webinar that Restaurant Canada is putting on to help us. So there's some sources out there that we could reach to and I'm sure Restaurant Canada will be able to disseminate some of the monies that the federal government is going to be issuing out to us and help us find the right tools to be able to apply for those things that we might need the most. I've read the letter from the chair of the DIA, and I think he's on the right track. Some of us might need different things. We talked about the hydro. Some of us that might help, but other businesses might need different things. And I think it's incumbent on anybody that has some experience like I do to be able to reach out and help and see what it is each one of these businesses might need in the way of help to move them forward. Because they're all in different slots right now. They don't all have the same problems. And so I'd like to just let that be known that I'm more than willing to help. I do have time on my hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dunstall. Certainly a generous offer. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that the update to council provided by Mayor Jordan, CAO, Acting Fire Chief, with reference to the COVID-19 novel coronavirus pandemic be received. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have, you can update the CAOs. All right, okay. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So as the current situation in Canada regarding the novel COVID-19 continues to evolve on a daily basis, it's important to determine an appropriate course of action to take into account the health and well-being of all members of council, staff, and the public. As such, this pandemic could affect the ability of having council meetings and achieving quorum. At this time, the legislation does not provide for electronic participation to be counted in determining the quorum. So recognizing that things continue to evolve and that directions from authorities may change at any time, it's essential that the town ensures the continuity of business in the operation of the community. To be proactive for when the need arises, it's recommended that council implement a delegated authority bylaw during this period of the pandemic. Again, corporate actions taken during this pandemic will be to ensure the business of the municipality can continue, as continuity of the operation during this period is essential. Our CAO will provide more details.
Yeah, as the mayor is aware, Minister Clark is looking at the possibility of electronic meetings. The legislation may be passed in weeks, not months. So we would be monitoring that. We would then have to change our procedural bylaw to allow that. So, but we'll stay tuned with that. But because we don't have that possibility, and we've, out of an abundance of caution, we've canceled meetings through the month of March, as you know, and our next scheduled council meeting would be April 6th. So if something were to happen, and we're analyzing this hourly, if we weren't able to have a meeting, there is some business actions that have to move forward. And I'll give you an example of what we mean by the delegation of authority. It's things like procurement that is only within budget. So it would be just executing on the RFP, and there's some projects underway, both in public works, playgrounds, some of our parks. So it's just to enact, as long as it's within budget, we'd be then given the authority to go ahead and execute on that agreement. It's things like some water and sewer rates that you've really already approved. They're just in the process of working with the region to confirm those rates. Some financial statements, some correspondence that we would distribute without council authority. And on the planning side, nothing to do with any open houses or suggesting any recommendations on any major projects. It would only be registration of agreements and registration of condominium plans, things that you've seen already and approved already. So the delegation of authority wouldn't be taken lightly, but in case we couldn't have a meeting, it's just another planning tool for this pandemic to keep our business operations moving. There might be some issues with purchasing some PPE equipment for fire, and we just would like that authority, if needed, to go forward. We'll provide an extensive report of what we've done in that time period afterwards, but again, we wouldn't take this lightly, and just to keep the business operations going, just in case.
Thank you, CAO Schlang. Questions? Councillor Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. So I've had some questions over the past week, and I feel like I've been out of the loop. I think that the emergency management group has been meeting daily, and I'm concerned that this is going to remove council entirely from the policy making and decision making at the town. So I'm concerned that in our emergency management program, it says that council continues to make policy, council continues to set expenditure limits, and council continues to change or amend bylaw and change or amend policies. And so I wonder, why are we delegating authority? And I feel like that already I've been kept out of the loop, and I want to be kept in the loop. So the other thing that I have concern with is that we haven't declared an emergency in the town of Grimsby, and we're already having meetings of our emergency management group on a daily basis. But if you can confirm whether or not we've declared an emergency, and if we haven't, then so why did we cancel our council meetings? Why can't we meet if it's not an emergency? I mean, we're meeting right now. And so then I would suggest, so that I don't have to get up more than once, that maybe we can suspend the rules and make a change to our procedural bylaw to change the 24 hours notice for a special meeting, that we can call a special meeting in a shorter time period, and that we can be notified by phone and by email. And I'm not in favor of delegating authority.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Bothwell?
Thank you, through you and the mayor. I agree with Councillor Sharp in some instances that we should, as a council, continue to conduct business representing our constituents as best we can, with, of course, modified precautions in place. I feel that we can continue to meet with some of those similar restrictions as we have this evening. I also think that we should immediately put in place amendment to the procedural bylaw to enable electronic participation, as Mississauga is doing tomorrow evening, I believe, at their council. They have a motion to permit electronic participation, although they recognize that it isn't counted for quorum. It will allow those who are not comfortable at council to participate fully that way. It would also be interesting to find out, because the Public Library Board at my last meeting actually amended their one of their bylaws for electronic participation, and they're permitted to be counted for quorum. So however we advocate to the minister for that, I think we need to look at other acts and regulations that do allow for electronic participation to be counted as quorum, and that should be setting the same precedent that we in these times should be, they should be cognizant of and permit that. So I think that the business as usual can go on. I know there's some things that we don't normally see all procurement activity anyway. I think if it's been approved through the budget, those things happen as a general rule anyhow. So I am a little concerned that that delegating this authority at this time may allow some things to slip through that council would like to have a closer handle on. I'm just a little concerned that some decisions might happen, and especially from my planning purview. I know the terms of reference, for instance, for the Grimsby Beach were approved at committee and are awaiting approval by council, but yet there's some steps that we had requested, which was some community input and some more commenting from the region. So I just want to ensure that those types of things, which is now actually the commenting period has been extended to March 31st, that those types of things don't end up just becoming a rubber stamp and going through, but we have that fulsome review that we've requested. I do agree that things like specific bylaws with regards to registration of site plan or subdivision, which are just a procedural matter as part of the day-to-day administration of planning, do continue. But I believe we can do that at a council meeting, similar to a committee of the whole, maybe a merged kind of forum agenda that we do, where we bring forward items that are of importance from each of our standing committees. They get put into a condensed agenda, and as a council, we can quickly take care of those bylaws in a consent agenda. So I think there's ways to do it. I think that it's premature to do the delegation instrument at this point. I think that I would like to see this motion actually tabled, and then maybe we can bring it back if we find that we're not able to continue in a meaningful way as a council in making those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Councillor Vardy?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd just like to say that I have asthma, which is why I cough. I don't have COV, so don't worry about that. I just would like to reiterate that I'm in complete agreement with Councillor Sharp and Councillor Bothwell. I don't think this is the time for us to be delegating our responsibility. If anything, it's really time for us to be stepping up. And in that regard, I would just like to say that as a public health executive with 20 years executive experience, I volunteer to do anything on the EOC, having had prior EOC experience at the federal level. So please call upon me if I can be of assistance. I'm available. I'm retired. I would like to see that maybe we could look at this at a later date. I have a few concerns with it, but I think that if we go along with what Councillors Sharp and Bothwell have said, it's probably not really important to talk about the specifics right now. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vardy. Councillor Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't go through what my three previous colleagues reiterated, but I will totally agree with 100% with what they said. We were elected by the people, therefore we need to be seen. We need to be seen. We need to be seen to be making decisions on behalf of the people. And if it requires us to come to this chamber and sit like we're sitting tonight, that's fine with me. I have no problem with it whatsoever. If you want, I think we should also look at electronic electronic meetings. We can make the rules, we change the rules to accommodate that. I have no problem being available within 24 hours or 12 hours, for that matter, if it's anything to do with an emergency in this town, by phone, by email, or otherwise, or by text. I mean, we should now be all on call and be prepared to be on call on behalf of the town, on behalf of the people. In terms of the budget, you mentioned the budget earlier, Harry, that you are now allowed, actually, as per our budget approval, to spend that money anyways. You don't need us to come to an emergency meeting to approve any budget items. What's in there, you are now, you have provided the decision to make those decisions. So anyways, I go along with my previous three colleagues. I think we should just step up at this point in time and be the councillors we were elected to be and represent the people. And until such time as we have a really emergency, we'll just continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Frick. Councillor Dunstall? Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I might ask a question, it may be directed at the town clerk. Has any other municipality in this region done this yet? Is this delegation of authority?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. I believe Wainfleet passed theirs yesterday. Region just passed it at their council meeting at 4 o'clock. There's other municipalities that are having special council meetings to pass delegated authority bylaws right now.
CAO, you'd like to add?
Yeah, at our calls, all the smaller municipalities definitely are going for delegation of authority. St. Catharines and Niagara Falls haven't decided yet, but the other 9 will be going.
Will be going. Okay. And is it our responsibility as a municipality to declare a state of emergency since the province has already declared a state of emergency in Ontario? Is that still our responsibility to do that? Maybe you could answer that question too.
Chief Thompson, I think you can help with that.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, actually, we still have to declare an emergency, but I was going to walk through the steps of that after every councillor spoke, but I could speak on that briefly right now.
Well, I'm just wondering. I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. Maybe we should hear whether we should be declaring a state of emergency or not before. Is that? No,
I'll be.
I don't.
At this time, we as community emergency management coordinators in the region, and including Chief McCullough from Niagara Regional Police and Chief Smith from the region, Niagara EMS, and Mayor Jordan, who's part of the regional team, we made it clear that if we declare emergency, there's pros and there's cons to it. So we've got to be very careful how we do this for public perception. We should allow it to come from the upper tier down. So we would like the region to declare first, then we'll probably look at each municipality declaring after that.
The only other thing I would say is that we're all entering uncharted territory that we have never experienced in the history of this world, not just this country. And I think it's incumbent on us to put aside some of our viewpoints under ordinary circumstances and really consider that this might be the right thing to do at this time. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, through the mayor. So I am going to disagree with some of my colleagues here that if you watch the TV, you're seeing the Prime Minister, you're seeing the Premier of Ontario get on the TV multiple times a day because this situation is changing very rapidly. You know, it has been declared a pandemic, and with that being said, like, yes, our bylaw states 24 hours for us to get together to put things in place, but with it changing so rapidly that I have no problem putting this bylaw forward and putting trust into the individuals to make the right decisions. Besides that, like I said, it's just 2 days, you know, without making further comments, because we should be trying to ensure the public with the steps that the province and the federal government that they've taken, that if you follow those things, that we'll get through this time. But yeah, other than that, there's no need to make other comments, but I do think that this is the right move for us to make.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Any further speakers? Councillor Cadwell, did you want to speak? You haven't yet on this? You're good? Okay. All right. Councillor Bothwell?
Councillor Sharp and I would like to bring forward a motion to table the bylaw being presented this evening. That's one motion. And the second motion would be to amend the procedural bylaw to include, one motion at a time. So the first motion would be to table the bylaw that's before us this evening.
Yes, by all means.
Through you, Mayor. Councillors, just to show some support to this, as your emergency management coordinator, we followed the bylaw, we followed our plan to a T. Even though an emergency wasn't declared, the team can activate. I met with the CEO, I met with our other CMC, Kathy McGrath. We followed Lincoln's lead, our lead. We worked as a team. We activated our emergency team together. To have a delegation of authority would assist my department even more than you would know. It's one simple thing that's going to be happening very soon. And it's something we have to say publicly. We're short on supplies. EMS is short on supplies. We're helping them out. That changed our protocols. We now only go to VSAs for EMS. We're not responding to our usual medical calls. They had to do that to protect us and also for what they need for their protection. The next step after that is no medical calls. I can't do that. It's in our ENR bylaw. I may have to do it at midnight. Without some delegation of authority, we can't do it. Without contacting all of you, getting you together. So it has a great effect just on that. I can understand maybe the other, I'm not the planning, I'm not that, but I'm just speaking as your fire chief, and I know how important having delegation of authority can be in an emergency time like this, and this is just through the emergency.
Thank you. Councillor Vardy?
I'd just like to say that I think, and as Councillor Sharp had said, he feels kind of out of the loop. That's the kind of information I think that we should have. I'm sure it didn't just come to you today. You've known about it for a while, but that's kind of news to, I'm assuming, most of us or all of us, which kind of speaks to the fact that we need to continue involvement. I mean, I think it's important for us to know that, and to not know it, I think puts our community at a disadvantage. So I hear you about how you need to be able to act very quickly, but I'm not sure that is the way to do it. That we have to maybe find, there's another way to do this. Thank you.
All right, I can read the resolution now. Councillor Cadwell?
Yes, just looking for some clarification. I'm just going to think back to when we had and the deputy chief was involved, when we had the boil the water incident back around, we had a few water samples, and that was handled very well by the senior management team. We were, as a councillor, I don't know if you were back then, Councillor Dunstall, but you know what, the way things have been working in the past and how it's been working now, I don't feel like I'm not in the loop at all. I think the procedure and how things have been working, and again, I reflect back to what happened then, I'm fine with everything, how we're doing business right now. So, yeah, I don't want to be micromanaging. I'm not saying that in any disrespect to anybody at all, but I'm just saying that, yeah, I'm fine how things have been, how the staff, the the emergency management team's been operating that, so, yeah, that's just my comment, so.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. I'll read the resolution now. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Sharp, resolved that bylaw 20-29 be deferred. All in favor? That is defeated. There's 4 in favor. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Dunstall, resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws number 20-29 and 20-30, and that be read a first time. All in favor? Okay, that's defeated the bylaw. All right. Do we have a recorded vote sheet? Recorded vote requested by Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Bothwell?
Sorry, can you repeat what we're voting on?
Yep. It's moved by Councillor Sharp, seconded by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws number 20-29 and 20-30, and that be read a first time.
So that's to approve the delegated.
To approve the yes, delegation authority. Yeah. Councillor Bothwell's nay. Oh, Councillor Cadwell, you have a question?
Yeah, so is this bylaw to make changes?
To approve the delegated authority.
Sorry,
It's the bylaws to approve the delegated authority.
so it's different the way we've been doing it.
Yes. Councillor Dunstall? Yay. That's it. Councillor Dunstall is yay. Councillor Frake?
Nay.
Councillor Frake is nay. Councillor Cadwell?
Yay.
Councillor Cadwell is yay. Councillor Ritchie?
Yay.
Councillor Ritchie is yay. Councillor Sharp?
Nay.
Councillor Sharp is nay. Councillor Bain?
Yay.
Councillor Bain is yay. Councillor Vardy?
Nay.
Councillor Vardy is nay. And I myself am a yay, so that has passed. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws number 20-29 and 20-30, read a first time, now be read a second and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and the town clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? All right, I'm in favor, so that is carried. All right. Should I ask for new business? No, okay, all right. All right, meeting is adjourned.
New business?
No, on the special council, there's no new
Well, I have
business.
something important, I think.
What?
If you'll allow me, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah, if you have something you feel important, it's okay.
At the federal level, when the EOC is activated, there are notes taken at the meeting, so we know what actions are being agreed to, what's being followed up on, and also for accountability. You need to have that record in place as to what your decisions were and why. And I would like to see that done in our EOC, and I'd like to see it circulated to council members daily, every time the EOC meets. it should be someone's responsibility to take all those notes and ensure the follow-up as part of a member of the EOC. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vardy. Yes, notes have been taken. Councillor Frick?
This is relative as well. I'm just curious, is the CEO of GPI, Grimsby Power, on this particular emergency team?
Chief?
Is that
Thompson?
simple yes?
No, he's not.
That being that, we need power all over the place, and if we don't have power anywhere, hospitals, clinics, businesses, nothing works, maybe it would be a good idea to invite the CEO of Grimsby Power to join that delegation, if I might be so bold to say so. Would be a good move on our part, and I think it would do the delegation proud and be good for the community, is my suggestion. Thanks.
So just for assurance,
CAO?
Remy and I are keeping in touch, we're sharing information, and certainly when it gets to that point, we would bring him in. So he's an agent that's very important to us, so we're communicating.
Great, thank you. Councillor Bothwell?
I had raised that motion for the electronic participation, which was not followed through on, or drafted or read. So I'm a little bit concerned that we did not address that this evening. Is there a way to still address that motion?
Yeah. Clerk?
So because that is not an agenda item, we would need to waive the rules of procedure and get 2/3 majority to put in that motion. Would you like to put it forward?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think that we can move forward with that. So we'll put a motion together for that. And first we'll put a motion together to waive the rules of procedure to get 2/3 majority. So yeah, what it'll be is we're suspending the rules for 2/3, just to allow electronic voting electronic participation in a council meeting. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that the rules of procedures be suspended in regards to section 2.3D of bylaw 0781 to govern the proceedings of council, local board, or committee meetings. All in favor? I can read it out.
So, but nobody knows who's voting here, so I'm just gonna suggest we record a vote so that the, not for any other reason except that
Yeah.
people who are looking at this on the streaming can't see and hear who's voting.
Absolutely. We have a recorded vote moved by Councillor, or requested by Councillor Frake. Councillor Bothwell. Councillor Bothwell is yay. Councillor Dunstall. Councillor Dunstall is yay. Councillor Frake.
Yay.
Councillor Frake is yay. Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Cadwell is yay. Councillor Ritchie.
Yay.
Councillor Ritchie is yay. Councillor Sharp. Councillor Sharp is yay. Councillor Vane. Councillor Vane is yay. Councillor Vardy. Councillor Vardy is yay, and myself as yay as well. So that is carried. So the resolution, we're just getting prepared right now. So the procedural rules have been successfully suspended. Yes, Councillor Sharp?
Change the 24 hours notice during this situation, that we be able to call a special meeting without 24 hours notice, provided that we have quorum. So I'd like to make a second motion that, I'll make myself available with less than 24 hours notice, and I think that all of us, and in this time, we ought to be available with less than 24 hours notice. And so I would like to also, after we vote on the motion that's on the floor, propose another motion.
Well, I think that's a change of our procedural bylaw, so we're going to need, if we do go down that route, we're going to need 2/3 to get a change of our procedural bylaw.
So these are
And
both
then
big changes to the
vote on that.
procedural bylaw. Okay.
I'll read this resolution. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that electronic participation be allowed under bylaw 07-81 to govern the proceedings of council, local board, and committee meetings. And I guess we'll have a recorded vote to make it easy. I'll call that one.
We, can I make a friendly amendment, or not, I propose an amendment, that it's just during this, this is just in effect during the pandemic?
I'm going to speak to that. Bill 68 allows for it now.
Councillor Bothwell, why don't you come up and explain that? Thank you.
Bill 68 now provides for electronic participation, and municipalities are able to enact that individually in their bylaws. So a number of other municipalities have taken this step forward. It's part of accountability and transparency, and to allow inclusiveness for all members of council to participate when they may not be able to come in person. So I think in that spirit of that bill, and we've seen this moving more and more forward across municipalities. To me, it's not just a COVID thing. It's an opportunity to allow council to participate more fully from whatever opportunity. So I think it should be an ongoing and not just specific to this incident that's occurring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. CAO, would you like to comment?
Again, if the legislation, Minister Clark is successful getting new legislation through, I think we should look at this holistically, and maybe not just for the COVID would be my recommendation to look at it holistically.
All right, thank you. I agree as well. The more, if we can offer full council participation to debate on things when someone's not available to be here at the chambers, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'll read the resolution again, and there is a recorded vote. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that electronic participation be allowed under bylaw 07-81 to govern the proceedings of council, local board, and committee meetings. And Councillor Bothwell? Yay. Councillor Bothwell is yay. Councillor Dunstall? Yay. Councillor Dunstall is yay. Councillor Frake? Yay. Councillor Frake is yay. Councillor Cadwell? Yay. Councillor Cadwell is yay. Councillor Ritchie? Yay. Councillor Ritchie is yay. Councillor Sharp? Yay. Councillor Sharp is yay. Councillor Vane? Yay. Councillor Vane is yay. Councillor Vardy? Yay. Councillor Vardy is yay, and myself, yay. So that is passed. Sorry, carried. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws number 20-29 and 20-30 read a first time, now be read a second and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Mr. Mayor, I have some comments on the actual bylaw.
Councillor Vardy?
Late, that the delegated authority is within budget. In item number 1, you talk about the end of the coronavirus pandemic, but that's rather a very indeterminate statement, you know. And as of...
Yeah, it already was passed. So we can't speak on something that's already
Can we lift
passed.
it?
No, it's already been passed.
Okay. Then that whatever decisions that have been delegated and carried through, that such as what's coming through committees, that they be circulated to council. Now that we're allowed to have council meetings via teleconference, can we lift this so we can still meet to discuss items of importance, such as a reconsider motion? Help me out, Dorothy. I think this bylaw needs to be tightened up, so maybe we could have a reconsider motion?
I guess if we have 2/3, we can reconsider it. So I'm certainly, as mayor, open to that.
So we have a seconder with Councillor Frake?
There's a recorded vote has been called by Councillor Bothwell. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that bylaw 20-29 be lifted for reconsideration. Councillor Bothwell? Councillor Bothwell is yea. Councillor Dunstall? Nay. Councillor Dunstall is nay. Councillor Frake? Yea. Councillor Frake is yea. Councillor Cadwell? Nay. Councillor Cadwell is nay. Councillor Ritchie? Nay. Councillor Ritchie is nay. Councillor Sharp? Yea. Councillor Sharp is yea. Councillor Vane? Nay. Councillor Vane is nay. Councillor Vardy? Yea. Councillor Vardy is yea. And I'm a yea, but it is defeated. We don't have 2/3. Councillor Sharp. Before we vote on that, the clerk has a few comments about the ability of us to do that as a council.
So some of the concerns regarding that motion would be that we need, administratively, we need to prepare the agenda and publish it and provide notice to the public. That's why the 24 hours is in there. That means we would have to suspend other areas of the procedural bylaw, right? For notice to the public, we're not providing 24 hours and all that because this is still considered an open meeting and there's rules revolving around that.
So this is
And-
during the emergency periods right now? Section 3.4, I think, of the procedural bylaw. Do you have that bylaw on hand? So what I would like is to change that rule during this emergency time to allow a special council meeting to be called with less than 24 hours notice, provided that we have quorum confirmed. And I think that me and my colleagues will also make ourselves available if a meeting is called. 3.1B. And if I can just add to this, is that it's only during this emergency period that we would be using this, and it's just so that we can meet quickly. I don't see any problem with that. In fact, I think that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we're just debating here, or not debating, but trying to figure out if there should be some type of time attached to it, if it's less than 24 hours, because I think feasibly for us to publish and everything, there's going to be some type of time before calling a meeting and having a meeting.
One item, it wouldn't be like a really in-depth agenda. It'd be, so we would call a special meeting for an item. You know, our procedural bylaw says we can call meetings and we can only discuss the item. So it's only an item, so it's a title and a date and location and one item. So like it ought not to take a lot of time to prepare that. And again, we're in an emergency situation here, or we are in the potential of an emergency situation, and we want to be available quicker than 24 hours.
Councilor Ritchie? Can I speak to that? Sure.
Thank you, through the mayor. So I want to just have an opportunity to speak to that. I work in emergency service and I work 24-hour shifts, and if you bring this in, then it may not give me an opportunity to represent the constituents in my ward. I know we have another individual there, but even with the participation from phone call, that would be considered as time theft if I'm actually at work and I need special permission. So for that reason, I'm asking us not to do this, keep the 24 hours.
We're talking about to allow staff time to prepare anything for a meeting. We're looking at like a 12-hour. Councilor Sharp, you'd like to speak on that?
So 12 hours notice, so say that staff prepares something at 3 o'clock PM or even 11 o'clock PM, 12 hours notice would be at, or PM, sorry, 11 o'clock AM or 3 o'clock PM. 12 hours notice would bring us into the middle of the night. So in an emergency, we could meet during the middle of the night, but in an emergency, staff could create an agenda in 6 hours.
Okay.
During this time period, and it's not to restrict my colleague from being able to come, but it's to allow us to meet on the same day as we call a special meeting, and only for one item and only during this emergency period.
Councilor Bothwell.
Sorry to go back to the reconsider motion that Councillor Vardy requested on the bylaw. I understand reconsideration motions are a majority vote, and we did have a majority vote to move that forward.
I'll read the time change amendment right now. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that Section 3.1B of Bylaw 07-81 be amended to be able to call a special council meeting within 6 hours before the time of the meeting and only effective during the period of this pandemic. All in favor? Recorded vote by Councillor Frake. Councillor Bothwell. Councillor Bothwell is a yay. Counselor Dunstall. Nay. Counselor Dunstall is a nay. Counselor Frake. Yay. Counselor Frake is a yay. Counselor Cadwell. Nay. Counselor Cadwell is a nay. Counselor Ritchie. Nay. Counselor Ritchie is a nay. Counselor Sharp. Yay. Counselor Sharp is a yay. Counselor Vane. Nay. Counselor Vane is a nay. Counselor Vardy.
Yay.
Counselor Vardy is a yay. And I myself am a yay. So that passed. The clerk's going to speak on that.
Sorry, just to clarify the reconsideration of the matter for bylaw 2029 regarding it can be reconsidered during this meeting and only requires a majority, but can only be brought forward by the member that has voted for the initial motion. And it was brought by Councillor Vardy, and she did not vote for the motion, the initial motion.
Counselor Vardy.
The original motion?
You would have had to vote with the majority of that particular question, and you voted with the minority. Yes. Sorry. This is just a confirming ballot because we added so much stuff right now. The confirming ballot has to come at the end, so that previous one was for the first ballot. This is just for confirming and to turn it. Yeah.
All right. So we just need a mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw, just to move by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vane. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vane. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 20-30 read a first time, be now read a second and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? The confirming bylaw, just to wrap up the whole meeting. Councillor Frake has called for a recorded vote. Sure, yeah, understood. I understand. These are different times. It's just the confirming bylaw for the proceedings today, for this meeting.
What if you want to confirm some of it, but not all of it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no, it's not at a changing point right now, so you can either vote for or against. Councillor Bothwell. Yes. Councillor Bothwell is yay. Councillor Dunstall? Councillor Dunstall is yay. Councillor Frake? Nay. Councillor Frake is nay. Councillor Cadwell? Yay. Councillor Cadwell is yay. Councillor Ritchie? Yay. Councillor Ritchie is yay. Councillor Sharp? Yay. Councillor Sharp is yay. Councillor Vane? Yay. Councillor Vane is yay. Councillor Vardy?
Nay.
Councillor Vardy is nay, and myself, yay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.